Welcome back, everybody, to the Online Course Creation Summit. And we're talking about something today that gets overlooked and forgotten about all too often until you've already launched and you're looking back in hindsight and wishing you did it a little bit differently. And that concept is not burning yourself out as you approach a launch. Everybody talks about a launch being exhausting, and it's so much work that goes into it behind the scenes with you and your team. And then you hit publish and the orders are rolling in and you're making money, and then you're totally exhausted. The good news is that you don't have to do it that way, and there are some strategies and techniques you can use to combat that and to plan ahead more successfully. So my guest expert today is Jenny Berk, and she's going to talk to us all about how we can avoid that horrible scenario and still have a successful course launch. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Laura. I'm so happy to be here. So as Laura said, my name is Jenny Berk, and I'm a certified eating psychology coach, a mindful eating instructor, and a health and wellness blogger. I've had my own practice, Jenny Eating Coaching, for about a year and a half. And prior to that, I was a health educator at a national health and weight management company. But the mission of my company is all about helping people heal their relationship with food and with their bodies. And my course that I created was all about emotional eating. And it was interesting that while I was creating the course, I talk a lot about self-care with my clients and my one-on-one clients. And here I was burning the candle at both ends. And it's so easy to be able to just burn yourself out really, really quick. There's so many moving parts to a launch. And, myself, I have 3 young kids, a husband, working full-time, hustling like all of you guys are. And I started to step back and say, I really need to implement the tools and strategies of self-care that I teach my clients all the time. So today I'm going to be talking to you about how to launch a course, but at the same time really take care of you and to really be focused on being balanced and healthy and implementing all the other things in your life that are so important. Because when you're too single-minded, other things suffer, and ultimately you suffer. So I'm just going to share my screen here. And just going to put that into play. So I've already introduced myself a little bit, but as you know, entrepreneurs, we all have to hustle. That's just part of it. Like when I first started my business, I'm a coach. I'm an eating psychology coach. I didn't realize that I also had to be a designer and a marketer and a promoter and a blogger and everything else that is involved with running a business. Like I really, not to mention bookkeeping and the financials, I just had no idea. So we have to hustle all the time to get our name out there, to market and promote ourselves, to create these, valuable sales funnels, and the course creation, which, as all of you know, is so, so critical to our success as entrepreneurs. So we have to be generalists. And as I said, the designer, the copywriter, the digital marketer, the sales team, the developer, everything. I could just go on. And we reason that in order to get out a good product, we just have to be working constantly. And unfortunately, that's often to the detriment of our health. So today, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to discuss some really valuable self-care that can be that you can implement right away during the course creation, but also during the launch. Because a friend of mine who's also a coach and launching courses get a major cold or some sort of illness after a launch because our adrenaline is pumping, and we're not going to get sick during the launch, of course, but it's right after that we get sick. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is self-care so that you actually feel amazing. You're watching the orders come in, and you're feeling on top of the world and also feeling energetic and healthy at the same time. So I mentioned already, I'm the founder and owner of Jenny Eating Coaching. My coaching is devoted to helping men, women, and teens create a more healthy and sustainable relationship with food and with their body image. I specialize in a kind and gentle weight loss, unique binge eating cessation techniques, and a lot of mindfulness practices. I earned my certificate from the Institute for the Psychology of Eating in 2015. And it's called the MBE program, but it's basically a mindfulness-based stress reduction course that's related to mindful eating in particular. And that was in 2016. And having struggled with food and with weight for my entire life, I finally feel like I cracked the code. I have found a deep sense of peace with my relationship to food and to my body. And I'm just truly passionate about leveraging this out to other people to achieve this kind of sort of freedom from this dieting culture that we're also immersed in. I consider myself a vegan foodie. I'm 80% vegan, but I love food. I love to cook. I love to entertain. My mom is a chef. And in addition to coaching, I love to entertain and bake and do hot yoga and kettlebells. So I try to make time for it all. And so can you, because as I said before, it's really important to be well-rounded, holistic, and be nurturing all different facets of your life. So this is just an example of what I looked like during my course creation and during my launch. I was so burnt out. Not only had I built my own business, I was stressed out beyond belief. Having to take care of a whole household, 3 children, and my business was incredibly challenging. And I had, to, like I said in the very beginning, I had to be delicately managed and balanced. And I honestly, I wasn't doing a very good job. This was before I sort of had my aha moment. And it was sort of getting to me, as you can see from the picture. So in 1 year, I had built a robust coaching practice with 20 regular clients, which is a lot. I was scheduling regular keynote addresses, workshops, talks, all kinds of stuff, other speaking engagements. I started my first book. I was self-teaching myself everything there was to know about digital marketing. I ran my first giveaway, and all at the same time, I created and launched my first course, which was Unhinge the Binge. This was all about learning all these cutting-edge techniques that I had practiced and learned to end emotional eating, stress eating, and binge eating.
So was that picture that you just showed kind of the, not rock bottom, I hate that terminology, but was that really the point where you realized something has to be different going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I was, when you're on autopilot and you almost feel like it's normal to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And, here I was speaking one-on-one with my clients all the time. I'm like, you have to take time to do meditation and and eat nourishing foods and all these things. And it hit me like I was so singularly focused on getting this course out that it was really to the detriment of everything else, including sleep, including eating well, including exercise. I love to exercise. I was like, I couldn't drag myself away from my computer to exercise, which is not like me at all. And so finally I just was like, oh, I've got to do something about this immediately. And that's when I started to, recognize I've got to do the very things that I'm teaching my clients to do. And so when I started to do that, and everything sort of changed, and the launching went a lot better after that point. So as I mentioned, I was heading towards burnout. So I made some very, very big changes, including being okay with not working on the course 24/7. That was a huge piece of it for me, because we set deadlines for ourselves, and we were so pumped and we're so excited about the content and getting it out to the world. And you do have to drag yourself away from the computer sometimes. But the methods that I'm going to talk to you about today were the ones that made me sane and calm and happy and healthy, and I believe ultimately successful in the launch. So here's my self-care tip number 1. Practice some sort of mindfulness or meditation. Now, this isn't something that is easy, but it is intuitive. So what I mean by that is basically it's paying attention. It's tuning inward versus being in your head or tuning outward. So it can be done anywhere. It can be done for 5 minutes. It could be done for 50 minutes. And this was something that I had been doing for quite a while, but totally dropped out when I was starting to create my course. So I brought that back into my life, and it started with just 10 minutes in the morning. And what it does is just grounds you for the day. And it helped me to set some intentions. Like, what were the priorities that I had to do for that day? What was it that I really wanted to accomplish? And then I was able to just sort of close my eyes, focus on my breathing, get into a parasympathetic dominance, my nervous system. So there's parasympathetic, which is the relaxation response. And then there's sympathetic, which is the fight or flight response. And when we're busy and doing so much output, our bodies experience that as a stress response. It's actually like a low level stress response where we have cortisol swirling around and insulin is higher and norepinephrine and all of these like hormones that cause us to sort of be on edge all the time. And usually those hormones, they get excreted from your body, but when you're in a day in and day out stress response, they kind of stick with you and they create inflammation, and then they create malaise and stomach aches and headaches and all those kinds of things. So even 10 minutes a day is enough to allow for the happy hormones, the neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin to start to, be generated in your reward centers, in your brain. So if you have no experience with meditation at all, I would go to calm.com or headspace.com. The first 10 days, I believe, of headspace.com is free. And calm.com is interesting. There's like memberships that you can purchase, but you can actually just go on there and they have all these different visuals, like live visuals of like an ocean, like or like clouds. It's calming, actually. So sometimes I just go on there and there's like a fire crackling. There's like a rambling brook. It's very, very nice. And sometimes I just stare at it for a little while just to get myself grounded. So I definitely highly recommend some sort of mindfulness or meditation practice. And there's tons and tons of research on this if you want to explore it further and understand the science behind it a little bit better. But this was the very first thing that I started to get back in place. The next thing I wanted to talk about is starting your day off with water, but particularly lemon water. And there's a lot of reasons for this. Number one is lemon water detoxifies. So when you are in course creation, and I've talked about this, this low-level stress response, and what it can do is actually detoxify the blood and help your liver sort of function at its best. And it aids in digestion. It can boost the immune system, which is absolutely what we need when we're creating a course and we're launching a course. And it really just cleanses your whole system. It flushes out the toxins and enhances enzyme production, stimulates your liver. And we need those things in order to be our best so that we can churn out some kick-ass content, to be honest. And for me, I feel very effervescent and alive when I drink water, especially cold water in the morning, because I'm so used to just grabbing my coffee and typing away. And so this is like a nice sort of, I meditate, I grab some water and my coffee. Don't get me wrong, but I have some water. And in the winter, I do like it warm. So you can make a warm mug of just hot water with lemon, and I put a little cayenne pepper, and it just, I don't know, it's just a very nice sort of self-care way to start my day. I just really enjoy it. It's very, comforting. For number 3 is take exercise or movement breaks. And I mentioned, earlier to Laura that, I love to exercise. I do kettlebell training. I do hot yoga. I love taking walks. I love hiking with my family. But for some reason, when I'm in course creation or if I'm really focused on a project, I literally just can't get myself away from the computer. And it's incredibly detrimental to our health. We're a society where we've become, very immobile. We've become very sedentary. And there's even a disease called the sitting disease and metabolic disorder because we're just sitting too much. And early on, when I had young babies, I was constantly just inherently rushing around a lot, going up and down the stairs, helping my kids out in different ways. And now that they're a bit older, I can actually spend 2 to 3 hours on my computer without distraction. So I have to remind myself to actually get up. So one of the things that you can do is set an alarm. You can do that on your iWatch, or they have your iPhone could buzz at you. They have apps that also remind you to get up every hour or so. And you could just literally, walk around your kitchen. You could go outside for 10 minutes. You can go up and down your stairs. You can do some stretching in your living room, maybe do some yoga. But it is really important just to like stretch out and move around a little bit. You could just pace, maybe you get on a phone, call a friend, and just move around and get the blood flowing, because that will not only help your body, but it's also going to help brain, your cognitive functioning as well.
And I love the idea of setting the timer, because we know in our head that we need to take a break and stop. But like you said, you get in the zone and you're writing or you're creating slides or you're brainstorming things. And then all of a sudden you realize 3 hours have gone by. I haven't gotten up. I haven't eaten.
Yeah, exactly.
Water. It's like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? And so when you have the timer, sometimes too, I've noticed that when my timer goes off, and I either take a break for 5 minutes or for 10 minutes, I'll go do something totally unrelated, load the dishwasher, fold laundry. I come back feeling rejuvenated, not just this, feeling of physically, okay, good, I got up and I moved around, but also you feel like it's easier to focus again once you've taken your brain out of that space for a little bit.
Absolutely. It's so, so true. And it's funny how we know this intellectually, but we just don't automatically do it. We have to be reminded to do it, right? So, I could link later to some apps, but you could also just Google it. There's tons of them that can help you with that. All right. So tip number 4 is not just eating and nourishing yourself, but really focusing on giving your body exactly what it needs. And I have a little bit of frustration with dieting culture, because so much of it is about, take out this, food group, and low fat and low carb, and don't eat this and don't eat that. My whole philosophy about eating is about the to-do approach. Like, what can we put in our bodies that are going to make us feel our best, and really respect what our bodies are really craving. And what our bodies are craving is a balance of macronutrients. So there's 3 particular macronutrients that our bodies need. And the first one is a complex carbohydrate. Carbs is like a 4-letter word. Well, it is a 4-letter word, but people have been so afraid of carbohydrates, but the truth is that they're incredibly important for our functioning. However, when we think of carbs, we're thinking of simple carbs. We're thinking of like the sugar and the processed goods and the breads and the pastas and things like that. When I talk about complex carbs, I'm talking about fruits and vegetables, whole grains, things of that nature, which are going to give us all those amino acids. And, this is the building blocks of energy, really, is all the carbohydrates. But it's important that you're combining that with lean protein. You need chicken, beef, eggs, fish, tofu. I'm a vegetarian, so I'll eat a lot of tofu. I like beans. I like veggie burgers and seitan and all that crazy stuff. But it is important to get a lean protein. And one of the things that people tell me is when they're not having enough protein or fat is when they're hungry. And you do not want to be starving, ravenous, hungry, not satiated when you're creating a course, because look, you can ignore your body when it's whispering, but you're not going to ignore your body when it's screaming at you, like, feed me, feed me. So one of the ways that you can, really do a preemptive strike, if you will, is to make sure you're creating macronutrient balanced snacks and meals. So again, it's the complex carbs, lean proteins, and then the last part is the healthy fat. So it's like the nuts and the seeds, salmon, avocado, coconut oil is a good one. And even butter, egg yolks, full fat yogurt is a good option. And this doesn't have to be some huge elaborate meal. Like, I'm literally talking like full fat yogurt, some flax seeds, and some berries. That's a macronutrient balanced meal or snack. You could have like a rice cake with some avocado and some turkey. That's a macronutrient balanced snack. But it doesn't have to be some huge crazy thing. But if you give your body those 3 macros, you're going to feel your best. And it's going to enhance your ability to do the productive work. It's not just pounding it out, but it's also going to help you to be creative and to think logically and to be able to really be your best. So self-care tip number 5 is the connection and communication. Really, really important. We can so isolate ourselves when we're in the midst of creating a course, creating any type of product or service, really. Because we're so passionate about what we're doing, and I'm a very, very social person. I'm really gregarious. I'm definitely an extrovert. And I was finding myself just in this complete bubble of the internet. And, the internet's very social, and I love, meeting people online and networking and stuff like that. But I also was craving like one-on-one time with my friends and like going out to coffee with somebody and just having, what I was missing was like true connection and like depth. And I felt like, I just can't take the time to do that right now. But I made myself, because I get so much out of it. There's so much nourishment from that. And, when you talk to another human being, you're face to face with somebody, they can see, what you're going through. You can see what they're going through. You can talk about some of the challenges that you're having, some of the fears that you have, some of the ways that you're excited. Maybe they have some ideas, about marketing. Maybe they have things that you hadn't thought about. So I really think it's important to connect to real people, in real life, in addition to the internet, and also in your communities. So if you have, go to church or a synagogue, or you're part of a book club, go to those things. Make sure you make the time to do the things that in your community and with other people, because that is going to so help you on the back end with respect to this whole process of being balanced and a holistic human being. So definitely an important one. Self-care tip number 6. Isn't this a cute little baby here? I love this picture. Sleep hygiene is so important. Without our sleep, we can't do anything. I had 3 kids, so as babies, I didn't get any sleep at all, and I was a mess. Like I'm somebody who needs a lot of sleep, and I do not do well when I'm not sleeping. I get cranky and irritable. I find that I'm hungry more, which of course is just your hormones being all in wacky. So you're going to be really tempted when you're, creating your course to stay up really late. For me, I like to get up early, so I'll get up at like 5 and start pounding away. But it's really important to set a schedule so that you have a specific time that you go to bed each night, within a half hour, and get up around the same time every day. In addition to that, it's really nice to be able to create some sleep hygiene rituals. So you can have like a cup of warm tea before bed, put a little lavender essential oil on your pillow. Some people like to meditate in the evening, or do like a gratefulness body scan, or a gratefulness sort of recapping the day and the highs and lows of the day. You can journal, maybe how you felt the creation went today. What was the best part of what you were working on? What was the part that you'd like to work on differently the next day? But having some sort of ritual is really helpful to produce sleep, to help you get to sleep, but also to stay asleep. Another idea is to take like a nice bath with Epsom salts, or just a regular bath. It's a nice way to sort of get yourself ready for sleep. And one other thing that I don't have here is try to avoid blue screens, like your phone, your iPad, the computer, at least for a half hour prior to sleeping. And reading, it should be fine. In fact, I can't even read anymore, because I'm like, I'll read one page and I'm like out in like a second. But some people really love to read before bed, and I think that's fine. It's just try to avoid the devices before bed. And self-care tip number 7 is splurge on self-care a little bit. Honestly, we're not going to want to until we know if we're making any revenue from our course. Some people can be really frugal about that. I totally get it. But honestly, I think it's important to, at least once during the time that you're creating your course, launching your course even, splurge on a massage, a facial, get a mani or pedi, or even like a whole spa day. It's going to be hard to do that, but come on, we're pretty confident we're going to make big bucks with our course, since we put so much work into it and we're promoting it like crazy. And you're not going to regret it. You're going to feel pretty amazing taking that time, and it's going to give you this sense of renewal, like, okay, I got this. I can keep going. I can keep doing this. This is something that I think is important for so many people. Don't do this, and even like a haircut, like go get a haircut, they have these places where you can just get your, blow dry or something, or get your makeup done, just something that's going to feel really nice. And Number 8 is some positive affirmations. There are so many highs and lows, as many of you know, with having a company and, having your own business, being an entrepreneur. It's very hard. And there's going to be times you're on top of the world. And there's going to be times when you're like, why am I doing this? And, oh my gosh, is this worth it? And can I keep doing this? And one of the things, and I definitely went through that when I went through my first launch, and I was scared to death. Like, is anybody going to click my emails? Is anybody going to purchase something? And I did some positive affirmations, and it's just amazing how, if you put those words out into the universe, they come back. It is something that I kind of believe in, just the whole, what you believe, your beliefs color your world is what it says here. And I really do believe that that's true. So certain mantras and affirmations, they may seem a little woo-woo to people, but they can be very effective. And I often do this with my clients when they're facing a challenging food day, like they don't trust themselves to not binge, or they're afraid to go to a party because they're afraid they're going to just grab everything. And I have them do some, mantras in their head, like close their eyes. You can say, I can handle any food challenge that comes my way. I trust myself. I will be balanced and healthy. My launch will be successful. Or even something like gratefulness, mantras, like I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to do this. Those types of things rewire our brains to create happiness and to create a sense of being positive. And it's really remarkable. So I definitely recommend that you try this. On my website, if anybody wants to go at some point, I have some food and body positive affirmations on their principle, and I like to put them all over the house so that I, remind me, like, I'm much more than a number on a scale. I'm an athlete, like just little things here and there that can just help me believe and stay positive, even when we feel like we're at our wits' end and we're frustrated. And then finally, I think this is the last one. I think it's important to take time to pursue other interests. We can become very monolithic when we're creating a course or launching a product, because it's sort of our everything. But for me, I have a lot of interests. I like to cook. I like to do improv. I like to, go dancing. I like to read. There's so many things I like to do. And one of the things that I work on with clients all the time is creating a pleasure inventory, because what I find is when people start to do the things that make them happy in a very balanced way, cognitively, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, they feel happy because they're kind of looking at all facets of their life. It's not just one thing. And of course, this is our livelihood. This is our business. It's incredibly important. But I truly believe it's important to take time to pursue other passions as well. So whatever that may be, I took an improv course, and that was amazing. It was one of the best experiences I ever took. I also took a 3-day trip with my husband, like a couple weeks, I think, before I was launching. And I didn't do any work at all. We went to the Berkshires. We went to Tanglewood, which is this place to go see music. We went swimming. We had such a good time. And I still launched on time. I was able to get it done. But I had to make sure that I was, meeting the needs of everything in my life, not just this one singular thing. And I think when people do that, they find that they're sort of feel even more fulfilled and more grateful and more happy. And so I'm going to stop the play. Oh, if you don't mind, if that's okay. Just if anyone's interested in learning more about me, you can go to my website, JennyEdenCoaching.com. I also have a Facebook group called Wellness Warriors. You can find me on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, all the regulars. And let me see how did we get out of here before I forgot?
I think hit escape.
Oh, right. Escape.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
Well,
so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for that. And just one thing I kind of want to close with is that a lot of what you talked about, it seems like basics, right? But it's not, this idea of eating well and getting plenty of sleep and taking time to do other things and taking breaks. sometimes we're successful at infusing that into our life as a business owner, but around launch time or around a time when you're almost overbooked, it's really easy to let those things go. And so the trick is to recognize ways to get yourself back into these good habits. So the alarm that tells you when to get up, looking ahead at your launch calendar and saying, you know what, 2 weeks before I launch, I really want to have a weekend away. I really want to have a spa day, and build that in there, because, you kind of have to trick your own brain into having this additional support around you. But it's so, so important, because otherwise you burn yourself out and you get so frustrated. And then the next time you launch, those bad feelings,
you're like dreading it. Yeah.
you're not even looking forward to it. And it can put a damper on the success of your launch too. It really can make you, when you have these great revenue goals that you meet, or when you have so many new students that you're excited to get to interact with, and then you're just like, wow, I'm really burned out. And, that can be really hard to go through.
Absolutely, because if you're doing all these things beforehand, you don't need to take like a 6-week break and then ignore your students, right? You can be like, all right, let's go. I'm feeling good. Let's do this. And then, as you were talking, I had one other thought, that you could even get, in addition to an alarm or something, you could find like an accountability partner, like, a friend, a family member, a fellow coach, a fellow person who's launching a product or service or a course. Like, hey, can we like hold each other accountable to some of these like self-care tips, because I want to be healthy during this, and I know you do too. Something like that.
Yeah, it seems to help a lot when you have another person that you can connect with, and an accountability partner can form that component, not just, a lot of people use accountability partners like, oh, can you check in with me and make sure I got done what I said I'd get done today? But you can use it in this other way of, hey, I want to be really mindful of the way that I approach my course and get prepared to launch it. Let's work on that together so we can accomplish that. So I love that idea. Great. Such amazing tips. And so worth reviewing again and again, and being aware of our own propensity to slip up in this way. It's not beat yourself up about it when it happens, but be aware of it and then say, okay, how can I avoid that again? Get the accountability partner, build these things into your schedule, all of that. So this has been a great presentation, and
thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to learn so much from you.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome. So happy to be here.